Auburn baseball takes 2 out of 3 from Tennessee. Let's get in here and talk about it.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, Auburn fans? How are we doing, up-tempo gang? Hey, what a weekend it was. The Auburn Baseball Tigers take 2 out of 3 from the 12th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers. Look, there's a lot to unpack here tonight. I'm sorry I'm so late. I just got home from Excel, Alabama a little bit ago. Got to eat some dinner and spend some time with the fam. And then we are here. We are here. And like I said, there's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about, a lot of weather delays and crazy baseball plays and weird bounces and coaches getting ejected, a player getting ejected, extra innings. There's just so much to unpack. And look, these were two great baseball teams that were going at it. I think you had dominant pitching on the being showcased for both teams, and you had some really good hitters being showcased, and you had two really good head coaches being showcased. So this was an amped up series, right? It was hyped up. A lot of eyes in the SEC were looking at this series, and it meant a lot for both teams. You know, they talked a little bit today about the skid that Tennessee had been on, and they had lost their last 3 out of 4 SEC series, and they didn't want to make it their last 4 out of 5. And you know, Auburn, they've been continuing to climb, and they're kind of fighting for that regional host, but then they want to get into that top 8 and possibly host a super regional. So just a ton on the line. There was a lot of hostility in this series, a lot of trash talking, going back and forth, and I was here for it. I was here for it. I look, Tennessee, we know how they play. We know how they carry themselves. Well, hey, that's just who they are, all right? And they're not going to stop as long as he is their head coach. And that is just the way they play the game, and that's the way they go about every day baseball in that program. And it's not going to stop, and it's just who they are. Tony Vitello carries himself a certain way, and Butch Thompson carries himself a certain way. Look, Tony V's great. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but the way he carries himself on the field and things like that, and all the antics and getting up in the umpires' faces and going around to each one and then flipping the chair on the field and all that. Yeah, I don't care for it. I don't. I think he's a hell of a baseball coach. Don't get me wrong. He's a great recruiter, heck of a coach. I prefer the Butch Thompson. I prefer the guy that does it behind the scenes. A guy that'll still go out and fight for his team and get at the crew and everything, and go to the chief and say, "Hey, look, man, you know, what do you got? Let's talk about this." And if he doesn't agree, then he'll push forward and he'll make a statement. But to go around to each guy on that crew and make a scene like that and all that, I don't know. It wasn't for me, right? It wasn't for me. But it is what it is. It's over with. We're out of there. We win a series. That's great. I'm glad to be out of there. I'm glad it's over with. And I don't really ever care to play there, because I remember the last time we played there and it got super hyped up and they ended up beating us. And Joseph Gonzalez gave up the home run in the rubber match. I think that was like in the 8th inning or whatever. And they got us, right? But I don't care to go back. That's just how I feel about that place. But look, let's talk about game one and the freaky stuff that right out the gate, it started happening. And you, in the middle of a monsoon, a hurricane, whatever you want to call it, one of the worst thunderstorms I've seen, to have two teams in the dugout and considering playing a baseball game is wild under those conditions. And they say, hey, let's lace them up and let's go play. Come to find out, Tony Vitello is the one who made that decision. So for any Tennessee fan that is out there throwing shade at Auburn or questioning why Auburn didn't have to go out on the field in the bottom half of the inning, well, it's because they called the game and they were like, hey, we're not playing in this mess because it's dangerous. Like, we don't need to be out here. But your head coach needs to look in the mirror, and your head coach needs to take responsibility of why they actually started that game. And we can't help it that Doyle got the start and Ike Irish hit a 2-run bomb off of him. That isn't our fault. That's your fault. You chose to start that game. You chose to throw that pitch to Ike Irish, and Ike Irish is the one who put it in the seats. And like Ike Irish said in his post game today on the AU Sports Network, Brad Law asked him, what was the motivation? And he said, I'll tell you, some part of the motivation was they didn't play the damn national anthem not one time. He said, we like to play places where they play the national anthem. That gets us going. And then he talked about Doyle trash talking Chris Rembert. Y'all haven't seen Chris Rembert say a word. I haven't seen the dude say a word all year to anybody. He's one of the most quiet players I've ever seen play the game of baseball. He doesn't open his mouth. He just plays. And apparently he said something to Rembert, and Auburn took it personal. And Ike Irish said, hey, sometimes you need to be humbled, and I just happened to be the guy that humbled him. So Ike comes up and hits the 2-run bomb. They call it, and they say, hey, look, we'll pick it up in a later time frame. Let's go check the weather. So then everybody's sitting there, and they're like, okay, well, when are we going to play baseball again? So we're sitting there until about 9 o'clock, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, well, let's pick it back up in the morning. So we're like, okay, well, see you in the morning, 10 a.m., right? We get to 10 a.m. on Saturday. You're looking for game one. Like, well, we might need to back it up a little bit more. So you're like, oh, man, when are we going to play these games, So, and here we come. When do we start? Like noon? 11:30, something like that, whatever it was. We finally start game one, and they're pissed, right? They are pissed because Doyle got burnt, all right? He got burnt. He couldn't throw that following morning because he threw like 25-plus pitches on that one inning Friday night. So Sam Dutton didn't get burnt. So we still had a healthy Sam Dutton ready to go, and he throws an absolute gem in game one. 6 2/3 inning, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 8 Ks. Just a masterclass from Sam Dutton. And then Ryan Hetzler comes in to close it out. He goes 2 1/3, 2 hits, 0 earned, and 2 Ks. Look, Tennessee fans want to do all the griping and the whining and complaining. You didn't hit. And Auburn did, okay? Chris Rembert, once he's been inserted into that leadoff spot, he's been tremendous. He's been excellent. Dude is hitting the true freshman, DHing a little bit, but has moved into the second base role from Pensacola, Florida. Has been a tremendous player for the Auburn Tigers. He went 2 for 4 in game one. Cade Ballou, glad to see him back being healthy. Really needed him out there in the outfield and his stick back in the lineup. 1 for 4 for him in the 2-hole. Ike Irish, obviously, we've talked about 2 for 4 with the bomb. And then Cooper McMurray, man, 2 for 4 in game one. That group right there, the core of your lineup, your top 4, man, they had 5 ribbies in that first game. You won 6-1. So that was the core of your offense right there, and they really got it done, and that is what you needed. That is what you needed going into Knoxville. You had to have that performance, especially out of Ike and Coop. Coop is the guy that he's the straw that stirs the drink, man. Because like I've told you 1,000 times, in the postseason, if Coop's not doing it, they're just going to pitch around Ike. They're just not going to give Ike anything to hit, and they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll just make this guy beat us. Because he ain't been hitting, so we're not going to feed Ike anything. And so when Coop's hitting, it just makes Auburn's lineup that much better, which I think is an elite lineup. I know I've had a couple of people argue with me about that, but I do think Auburn's offense is elite. I think it's one of the best lineups they have rolled out in Butch Thompson's tenure. And look, the pitching staff. So you talk all this crap about Teaford, and Teaford's not a pitching coach, and Teaford can't do this, and he doesn't know when to pull guys, and he doesn't know what guys to put in. No, the pitching is what Auburn is. I mean, they've put their hat on it for majority of the season. They have put their hat on pitching for majority of the season. I don't know how you can down Teaford. Yeah, it was bad last year, but this year, well, you went and got a couple dudes out the transfer portal, and you've developed a couple guys. I don't know how you can down him. I really don't. You gave up 6 hits in what some people call a Mickey Mouse ballpark. And what some people said that you had to hit a bunch of home runs in order to beat Tennessee in this series. And you gave up 6 hits? Man, sounds like the pitching's pretty good to me. Sam Dutton is in a different stratosphere right now. You have good, you have really good, you've got really damn good, and then you got Sam Dutton. That's Sam Dutton up here. That's a guy where I don't care who we play, we can roll out and I say, hey, Sam Dutton's going to give us a chance to win this game. End of story. End of story. Sam Dutton is terrific. And guess what? I think you figured something out in games 2 and game 3 with your pitching staff. I feel like you figured out your game 1, game 2, and game 3 guys who you can lean on the weekend. Yes, I know we lost game 2. Yes, it was weird. It was funky. It was one of those where you play it all day. You get to you're up 1 in the bottom of the 9th. You give up a home run, and I thought Parker Carlson pitched great. I thought he come in, showed some dog. Look, he just got hit, right? It happens sometimes. He left the pitch out over the plate. He got hit. They tie the game up in the bottom of the 9th. You go into the 10th, and here comes the cheese, right? Here comes the rain. It starts falling. They throw a pitch, and they say, hey, look, it's axed, man. We can't play this thing anymore. It's going to rain all night in Knoxville. It's not checking up. See you back Sunday morning. And by the way, game 3 is only going to be a 7-inning game. And the thing with that is when you have to play 2 games on a Sunday, they have to be 7 innings. And I know we didn't technically play 2 games, but we had to finish that game 2 and then lead into game 3. So, these teams, they're students. Yes, they're still students. They have to get back to the university. So the travel team has to get back home and prepare for class and things like that the following day. And so that is why that rule is in place, y'all. But I wanted to say in game 2, look, I know Cam Tilley had a little struggle with command and control. He walked 4 guys and all that. And they got to him, and, that's okay with me. That's okay. Carson Myers come in. He did a job. He extended the game. You had the lead. John Armstrong come in. I thought he was great. I thought he was a guy that worked out of a couple of jams. You can lean on him and his arm. He showed some length. It's just not a guy that you throw in for one batter to get an out like they kind of were using him earlier in the season. Like I said, Parker Carlson, I thought he's always been solid, man. He come back this year and he got a little dinged up and everything. He just left one out over the plate and it got hit, right? It happens. Dylan Watts, I thought he showed some dog. He ran into some trouble at the end of the game, and hey, Griffin Graves got put in a tough spot, and it happens, right? But look, you come back Sunday morning. You got a chance to win game 2 and win the series. But here's the deal. All the whining and complaining they did Friday night about Doyle, he got to come back Sunday morning and pitch in extra innings for game 2. All right? So you kind of felt like you had some momentum, and then you lost some momentum because Doyle got to come back. And when Doyle come back, I said, okay, look, we're probably not going to win this game, but we're going to win game 3. We're set up to win game 3 because Doyle, he's dead, all right? And their arms, they don't have anything left. They don't have anything left. So we're going to win game 3. And I was fine with that. Everybody was like, oh, man, Doyle's got, who cares? Give them a game. We still should have won the game, in my opinion, yeah. But give them a game. Like, just here you go. Go take game 2. That's fine. We'll win game 3 and get out of here. We're looking to be a top 8 seed. So what happened in extras was really funny to me. And look, I think it was a terrible call from Auburn. Bub Terrell at the plate. Yes, he struggled all weekend. Yes, he I'll say something about Bub. He struggled. And yes, he's been struggling a little bit offensively. But let's talk about the catch he made in game 3. We'll get to it in a little bit. But that's a guy who doesn't. A lot of times you'll see young players, when they're struggling at the plate, they'll take it to defense. They'll take it out on the field, and it will affect how they play defense. And Bub Terrell isn't letting that happen. That's why I love his game. And it's crazy that he's a true freshman. It is crazy to have that composure, to carry yourself like that, to not let it affect you and go make a play like that. I want guys like that on my roster up and down the roster. That's who I want to play with, guys like Bub Terrell. But anyway, look, it was just bad. We tried to steal home. I guess we were trying to draw the throw to first and get Bristol Carter on the move to the plate. I think it was really bad. I think it was bad execution. I think it was bad timing. You had just called timeout, first off. You had just called timeout and rallied the troops together. And then you got Ike Irish on camera sitting there going, yeah, man, yeah. Like basically saying like, yeah, they're about to try something right here. Like, I don't know if it's going to work, but they're going to try something. You could tell with the way Ike was like going in the huddle that they were about to do something. And I just thought it was really bad timing. I think everybody in the park knew what you were about to do the minute you called that timeout because of how bad Bub was struggling at the plate. I guess you were looking to take the bat out of his hands. I don't know. I see your comment, Ephesians. We'll get to it, man. Sorry, I had to give me a sip there. I just think it was a bad play. I'm just a believer in letting a guy swing the bat. I know there's a time to steal home and all that stuff, but Doyle's not stupid, all right? He's not dumb. He's played a lot of college baseball. He's going to make that play 10 out of 10 times. He's just not stupid. That's why he hosed you. Now, whatever happened at home plate, Doyle is following his head coach. And when Doyle pushed Bristol Carter, that is just a reflection of your coach, man, and how he carries himself. And you, in order to get your team fired up, if you constantly have to create chaos or benches clearing or some kind of scuffle, or you're constantly getting thrown out of games and things like that, you're just a clown program, in my opinion. And yes, I know they won the national championship last year, and that's great. And that is great. And another thing, they want to talk about all this umpires suck and everything. Well, we could go back to Omaha and question some calls in your Omaha trip, all right? But we're not going to do that because that's not what we do here. But we could easily go back and check that check swing in Omaha where he clearly swung. And they said, oh, no, he didn't swing. Clearly swung. But we're not going to do that. We're not. because I don't like doing that. I don't like putting it on, I don't like putting it on umpires and blues and, the crew chief and all that. So that's not me. But what Doyle did was clownish, and it come back. We find out that he got ejected over it. We didn't know it at the time, but he got ejected over it, as he should. You put hands on an Auburn player, you pushed him, and basically told him to go F himself. That's what I saw. You were basically telling him, hey, get out of here. What, blah, 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 blah. And don't say they don't do it, because Drew Gilbert was one of the world's worst. And it's, you follow your head coach. Matter of fact, my man Trey Strickland posted a graphic of Tony Vitello about 30 minutes ago, and I actually commented on it. I said he needs to look in the mirror because I think he's a clown. Me personally, I wouldn't post anything of Tony Vitello. I think he's a great coach, but I think he's a clown. Culture is an everyday thing. Who you are on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is what shows up on Friday night. There you go. All right. So the way they practice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is who shows up on Friday. So he teaches clown mentality Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to show up and act like clowns on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's just the way they carry themselves, and they're not going to stop. And you know what's crazy is I actually, last year's team, I said this to a couple of guys that I talked to about college baseball. I said, you know what? He's actually becoming a little bit likable. He's becoming a little bit likable because I didn't feel like they did that crap last year. They didn't do the whole, creating chaos and all the antics and all that. I feel like they stayed out of the way last year. Christian Moore was a leader of that team, and they just kind of like stayed low. They were like, hey, we're going to win this national championship. We don't need to do all that. And then here we are this year, boy. Boy. I don't get it. I really don't. But anyway, that happened. We lose the game, and let's point to the bases loaded, bottom of the 11th, 1 out. Auburn plays infield in. Look, the middle's got to play back there. Middle's got to play back. Griffin Graves gives up an easy double play ball. If Fabian is playing back, Auburn rolls 2. You get out of the inning there. If you would have got out of the inning there, you would have found out that Doyle was ejected, and you probably maybe would have won that game because they would have had to bring in somebody else. There would have been no more Doyle on the mound. So that would have been huge. But Auburn surrenders that loss. That's fine. It's okay, whatever. You go to game 3 and you win 8-1 to win the damn series. So you handled business. And everybody in between game 2 and game 3, social media was quiet. The broadcast was quiet. We didn't know who was pitching for Auburn, and then all of a sudden, like right at game time, they were like, hey, Chatterton's pitching. Like, okay, Christian Chatterton, a guy that shoved in the midweeks. We think he's really been progressing. He's been developing. That's great, right? He threw 84 pitches on Tuesday. How far can he go today? I get that it's almost a week. Still, he's a college guy. 84 pitches is a lot on a Tuesday night. You come back on a Sunday. Let's see what he's got in the tank, right? And, boy, he was electric, right? Chatterton, 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 Ks, 0 earned runs. That's a true freshman on the road in a rubber match in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was lights out. Then you bring in Cade Fisher. And this is where I was just telling you where I think they found what they're about to do, especially for the postseason and moving forward for these last 2 SEC series. Cade Fisher comes in, and without a doubt, his best performance of the season. Cade Fisher went 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 5 Ks, 1 earned run. Hey, and bring it in with me right here, 1 base on ball for Cade Fisher, man. 1 walk for him, a guy that has kind of struggled with his command and finding the zone and staying in the zone. Like when he would have those starts in the SEC, he would look great for the first 2, sometimes 3 innings, and then he would get that second time through the order and just have a debacle, right? And it didn't look good. But today he was tremendous. It looked great. And then your offense come through. I don't care if they took bases loaded walks or whatever. They found a way to score runs. Ike was 0 for 1, y'all, but guess what? He had 3 walks. Guys patient at the plate. And, hey, Tennessee fans, they want to talk all this crap about Ike not being a first-round pick and all that. Look, it's blasphemy. They're just mad. They're upset. They got beat. They didn't think Auburn was going to come up there and take over their trap, right? And we did. Chris Rembert, like I said earlier, once he's inserted into the leadoff spot, 2 for 4. Another banger of a game for Chris Rembert. A guy that can do it all. He can hit line to line, gap to gap, bombs for power, all that good stuff. He's a guy, and that's a true freshman. Cooper McMurray had a big double. He was 2 for 4 on the day. Huge out of him. Lucas Steele. Let's talk about Lucas Steele, man. Lucas Steele was a guy earlier in the season that I said, hey, he's a transfer from Samford. He's not going to complain about playing time. He's going to be really, really good at the plate for you. He's going to be disciplined. He's not going to get cheated, and he's going to give you great quality at bats. And he's done that all year. Also a guy that can switch hit, right? He can go from both sides of the plate. I think that's huge for Auburn. He really got Tony V in that last inning. Tony V had a lefty. And I don't know why he went righty. I guess he wanted Lucas Steele to hit from the left side. So he pulled the lefty, went righty. Lucas Steele comes up and gets a base hit. And then Chase Fralick, the freshman, look, he probably would have got the game-winning – well, he would have gotten the game-winning hit if we would have Parker Carlson wouldn't have gave up that home run in the bottom of the ninth in Game 2. But Chase Fralick, 2 for 3 in Game 3, had a couple big hits for the Auburn Tigers. He's been doing it all season long as another true freshman. It's just crazy how we just keep spitting out these true freshmen for the Auburn Tigers. But has stepped in that catcher's position behind the plate for Ike Iverson, moved him out to right field, and I felt like that was just such a big addition for Auburn's offense to be able to put Ike out in right and then to have his stick behind the plate, and then you can that allows you to add Lucas Steele's bat at the DH spot, right? And that's why it adds so much more pop to the lineup, in my opinion. But this team, look, you come out, you score 4 in the third. Right there, when you put the 4 spot up on them in the third, you knew it was going to be really, really hard because we only played 7 innings in Game 3. So you knew that when you put the pressure on them there, they had to start scoring quick, and they weren't really hitting the baseball. They weren't having good ABs. They were swinging through a lot, and so you knew you kind of had it in the bag a little bit. There was still that thought in the back of the mind, but the way Cade was throwing, you felt like you had it, and the way Chatterton was throwing, you felt like you had it. 3 in the 5th, and then 1 in the 7th. Man, you didn't stop. You got the insurance run in the 7th. Look, the bats were just alive in Knoxville, and when the bats are alive, I think Auburn is one of the most dangerous teams in the country. Because you can say what you want about pitching, but Auburn's got the pitching this year. Do I think it's good enough to win a national championship? Probably not. Do I think it's good enough to make it to Omaha? Yeah, I do. Are they going to make it to Omaha? I don't know. Baseball is a funny game. You never know. I felt like they were going to make it to Omaha 2 years ago, and they went 0 for 2 in their own regional. So you never know. Baseball is it's a weird game. But yeah, let's get over here to these comments, man. That's my Game 3 breakdown. Let's get over to these comments. And P-Pass says, had Brisket in Montgomery, Full Moon should be a national franchise. Full Moon's good, man. I know down here in Mobile, I feel like if you don't go to the PA, baby, you're lacking the barbecue scene, because Dreamland, in my opinion, is dog water. So that's just me. I'm not a Dreamland guy, and I know they support the University of Alabama, but Tennessee coach brings it and finds out. Yeah, it was just super clownish to me, man. He should be in the pros. You talking about Ike, P-Pass? Because I definitely agree. I think he'll be there soon. Thomas says, proud of my Tigers, man. Aren't we all, Thomas? What a showing, man. What a showing to go up there and get 2 out of 3. Tony thinks he's Billy Martin. Man, rest his soul, right? One of the greats of all time. My grandpa used to tell me a lot about Billy Martin back when he was alive, and my grandpa passed away when I was 13 years old. And my grandpa always used to say, "Son, do you want to be a winner?" And I'd always be like, "Yeah, man, yeah, for sure, sure. I want to win. I want to win." And he'd say, "Well, only way to do that is to be a Yankees fan." So that was his thing with Billy Martin. Billy Martin was a winner for the New York Yankees. Susan says, "War Damn Eagle, appreciate you for being here, Susan." Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 and 9 says, "Dude, what happened with Carter on the attempted home steal? Is he very good on the bases? But I'm not sure I understand that one." Yeah, great base runner, great defensive player, struggling a little bit at the plate right now, swinging the stick. I think it was called, and I think Auburn just did a very poor job of execution, and I think the whole ballpark knew what they were trying to do. That's just it in a nutshell for me. When you called that timeout and waved everybody over, I think everybody knew what you were trying to do. It's just not hard. War Eagle fan, what a weekend, Miss Devon says. Miss Devon, thank you for being in here. Andrew Jacobs, how we doing, man? Tony is the Dan Hurley of college baseball. There you go. Yeah, I like that. Hell of a coach, just really, really difficult to put up with. Heck of a coach, just really, really difficult to put up with. I love watching them coach. I just don't love all the extra BS. Can't believe the idiotic Tennessee fans that were saying it was Auburn's fault about game one. They deserved everything they got. Yeah, Devin, I don't understand how it's our fault. Your coach is the one who said, "Hey, let's play." And once you gave up the 2-run bomb, you no longer wanted to play anymore. So it is what it is, whatever. That's on Tony V. Bristol Carter is more of a liability on offense than Bub Terrell is, in my opinion. Yeah, for sure. I just, that is one thing about game two that I didn't really agree with, and I guess I can say that is I felt like Cade Ballou should have been in the lineup. I don't care about matchups or whatever. I felt like Cade should have been in the lineup, or if not, at least come in late for, a defensive substitution or whatever, a pinch hit for Bristol Carter. And look, I know Bristol hit the ball. He hit that double off the wall. I think that was in the 11th. And I feel like the way Cade's swinging it, though, he's just a much, much better option right now. And that's not a knock to Bristol, but I just think he should have been out there in that moment for Auburn. I was so glad I was wrong about the momentum for game three. I told you, Devin, I said, let's see how it plays out real quick. Because you got to look at the thing with momentum is yeah, Tennessee had momentum, but they didn't have the arms. God, I don't know why my camera keeps doing that. They don't have the arms, and they were done. They were done. They didn't have anything left. And if Auburn could attack their starter in game three, once you got into the pen, they were so thin that you just saw the production wasn't there. That's why I said just wait a couple innings and let's see how this game plays out, because we knew we had arms. We had pitching left. You still had Alvarez. He didn't even make an appearance this weekend. So we were fine. Like, we were in a great spot. Tennessee fans out here saying everyone else whines about umps too. No, they don't. Difference is our coaches don't get thrown out over it. Butch knows when to stand up for his team and how to do it respectfully, for sure. No, that's a different kind of whining. A different kind of whining, y'all. It is. Let me tell y'all something else about Tennessee. All right. If you watch a Tennessee baseball game, every single pitch, every single at bat is a player constantly complaining about balls and strikes. Every single pitch, it is a complaint about balls and strikes. It's not baseball, man. It's not. When you have to get up there and complain and just harp and gripe 24/7, dude, swing the bat. You got 6 hits in game 1. 6. You scored 1 run. Look in the mirror. It has everything to do with you, not the umpire. Stop. It's annoying. Nobody likes it. Nobody. Not a soul. It's clownish. Stop. It's every guy too, man. Been waiting all day for this recap just to be able to trash talk and clown Tennessee. Yeah, like I said, I just felt like I was starting to really like Tony V, and then just today just kind of ruined it for me, man. Couple questions. People are saying Auburn is number 3 in RPI. What is that? Okay, so RPI is basically where they take every statistic and put it all together. And so it's basically like the Kim Pom of basketball, Devin. That is what RPI is. So like schedule, the teams that you've played and beat at home, the teams that you beat on the road, all that stuff is taken into accountability with RPI. And that is basically why Auburn, in my opinion, is going to get a top 8 national seed, is because it's your whole resume and everything you've done all year thrown into that RPI. Also, can you explain why Doyle couldn't throw again after throwing 25 pitches? Is it because he couldn't stay warmed up? Yeah, Devin. So it's an arm issue at that point. You don't want to. Maybe if it was 12U travel ball, you might throw Doyle the next day. But this isn't 12U travel ball, unfortunately, and you can't let a guy throw 25 plus pitches and then come out Saturday morning and throw another 90, and you just his UCL would be hurting, and so you have to be a safety precaution, and that's why he come back Sunday and threw the extra innings, because Tennessee knew they were going to scrap a run across. They knew they weren't going to be in that game very long. So that is why he come back. And look, you still got to look in the mirror, and you're the one who chose to play that game. You're the one who chose to start that game. So before I hear anything about Dutton got to pitch and Doyle didn't, look, Doyle was 1-1 on the weekend. He was the losing pitcher of game 1 and the winning pitcher of game 2. So, he salvaged something out of it for you. So, it is what it is. I don't. Tony V was it was a weird series, y'all. It was weird. All the stoppages and starts and, whatever. It was just super weird series. Pine and Oak. I played ball at Georgia Tech in 06, shortstop. That's sick, man. That is sick. Me and Victor. Hey, bro, look, me and my brother, you know what's crazy? Me and my brother were talking about Georgia Tech when Auburn was playing them the other night. And it's crazy that you commented this, because I said, he was like, man, Georgia Tech's good again in baseball. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, you remember back in like the early 2000s, like 2010s, like that stretch? I was like, Georgia Tech was just absolute dogs in baseball. Like they had some squads, and that was like a week and a half ago probably. And my brother was like, yeah, I remember it. Like they used to be like really good. I was like, yeah, they went through like a little dry spell there for a little bit. And like every team does, like every university does. And they've hit the ground running again. And they're a force over there in the ACC, which I voiced my opinion now with the conference realignment and everything. I think college baseball is a 2-conference sport, and that's just my opinion. I think it's the SEC versus the ACC, and that's just how I feel. Some people have disagreed with that. But me personally, I love college baseball, and when I watch the teams, I think it's SEC versus ACC. And the Pac-12 lost their juice when UCLA and now Oregon State's not even in a conference, and Oregon is in the Big Ten, and USC. I don't know what the hell has been going on over there. That's just a school that should never be bad at baseball or football. Heck, even basketball. They should never be bad at anything, man. And they used to be such a prominent baseball program, and now they're terrible. But I don't know. I just hate the conference realignment and everything, like Cal and Stanford being in the ACC is so stupid to me. But it is what it is, man. And I just think it's a two conference sport now. But I think those two conferences are really, really good, and they're competitive with each other. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun postseason. Why is that everyone jumps to blame pitching? Why is it that everyone jumps to blame pitching? What do you mean? What do you mean, Devin? You have to expand. I'm not getting your question. I know baseball is weird, but man, I hate those losses. The Holy Cross, Old Dominion, swept by UAB, etc. Record looks so much better without those. It does. It does. I also feel like Auburn was trying to find themselves in that stretch. I feel like Auburn was trying to find their identity. And so I kind of, especially the Holy Cross was just opening weekend, and you dropped a game. I brushed that one off real quick. But the UAB thing, yeah, I get it. Old Dominion, I get it. I think Auburn was trying to find themselves, and they were playing different lineups. They were throwing out different pitchers and things like that, trying to find something that worked. And now they found it. I think if you were to go back and play UAB again, you'd beat them by 10. But they shouldn't be in here for sure. It just doesn't even seem right. It doesn't. Why is it that everyone is so quick to blame pitching for a loss? Everybody wants to go there so quick, Everybody wants to go there so quick. Look, in college baseball, what I try to tell people is teams usually have a really, really good Friday night guy. All right. And you can win low scoring games on Friday nights. Saturdays, guy's still pretty good, right? You can win games 6-5 and things like that, 5-4 and things like that, right? Game 3, you better be coming out and scoring like Auburn did, eight runs today, 9 runs, and people are like, "Oh, Blake, that's crazy talk, man. Like, it's college baseball. Shouldn't nobody look?" A lot of these teams have 2 really good studs, and then it's just kind of like that third guy, man. Like, yeah, that third guy. You got to be able to hit. You got to be able to score runs. You have to. In the SEC, you have to score runs. So when all these people are like, "Oh, it's pitching. Your depth in pitching by Sunday is shredded a little bit. And I don't know. It's the SEC, man. It's tough to pitch in the SEC. It's like Mikey Matzo told me, and I'll always go back to that. He was like, "Man, I struggled more in the SEC than I did in AA ball." And he was like, because I looked at the SEC and said that was more of a pro setting than AA. And he was like, now, don't get me wrong. He was like, AA ball was hard. But he said the SEC was really, really tough, really, really humbling. And I just think it's really hard to pitch in that conference. But everybody wants to jump on pitching and say, oh, Auburn Tigers needs to be fired. No, he doesn't. Auburn's pitching is fine, and they're still trying to figure out quirks and all that good stuff. I had a contract deal with the Astros that fell through in 07. I wish I wasn't arrogant. And I thought I could have just worked and got it done, but I was cocky. I remember I remember back when I was coming through high school and thinking that, I would go play, bigger and better things, man. And it didn't work out. And then I just fell out of love with it. And that was it. So, yeah, look, Auburn took 2 or 3 in Knoxville. I think they're setting themselves up for a top 8 national seed. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. New faces, old faces, members, whatever. I think we got some great content coming up. We're still not done with baseball. We still got 2 weekend series left. This coming up weekend is a Mother's Day series, so it'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Mama's Day on Sunday. We play the South Carolina Gamecocks. That should be a series sweep. We should not drop one of those games. They are absolutely terrible. They lost to Florida today, like 22-3. So yeah, we should sweep them. Look, we're 13 and 11 in the SEC right now. You're 2 games away from that 15 win mark. Go get it done, man. Make sure. I would love to get to 16 and then possibly get to 18. Right? Go win 2 at Ole Miss. And then there's no way they hold you out of a top 8 seed. Hell, you might be a top 5 seed if you get to 18 SEC wins. So, look, that's the goal, baby. Let's go get it. War Damn Eagle. I'm out of here. I'll catch you on the next one. Like I said, a lot of great content coming out, football and baseball. Be ready for it.